The Packers are expected to earn 9 wins this season, according to bookies. Now, should we bet the over or the under? What do you think? Well, I'm Professor MJ, a university professor and holder of a PhD in statistics. And in this video, I'm going to give you my opinion on this matter. I'm also going to discuss player movement and also the key pieces on offense and defense for the Packers. Now, keep watching until the end for a great betting tip.
Matt LaFleur's first season as Green Bay's head coach has to be considered a success. He led the team to a 13-3 record, which secured the NFC North title. The Packers held off the Seahawks in a 28-23 home win in the first round of the playoffs, but were ousted by the Niners in a 37-20 thumping, a game in which the Packers dug themselves into an early 27-0 hole.
Let's talk about the quarterback position. Aaron Rodgers will be entering his 16th NFL season. He had another excellent year with a 26-4 TD to INT ratio and over 4,000 passing yards. He finished as the 7th best QB in the league according to PFF ratings. At 36 years old, he's likely to have a few good years left. After all, Drew Brees and Tom Brady posted nice statistics in their late 30s. Rodgers has been very durable throughout his career, but he's not invincible either. Tim Boyle was the backup plan last year, and the team needed to upgrade the position while starting to think about the post-Rodgers era. Still, drafting Jordan Love was the most questionable and talked about pick in this year's draft. People expected the Packers to go with a veteran backup QB. Rodgers has mentioned several times he wants to play in his 40s. He can still offer a good 5 years of solid play in the frozen tundra. Love possesses great size, throws with velocity, and he is very mobile too. But the main knock on him is the decision making and also the inconsistency. As a sophomore, Love threw 32 TD passes versus just 6 interceptions, and he regressed a lot last year by posting a 20-17 TD INT mark. Granted, his surrounding cast was very weak, and he had to go through a coaching change. Let's now discuss the running backs. Aaron Jones is a top running back in this league. Along with Jamal Williams, they form a dangerous duo. Including the playoffs, Jones ended up scoring 23 touchdowns in 18 games. His numbers have increased in each of his first 3 years as a pro. He's also excellent as a pass catcher. Despite playing in the shadow of Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams still finished as the 17th best running back based on Pro Football Focus rankings. He does not seem like a lead back, but he's a perfect change of pace guy. If you thought the Packers GM made a strange move by drafting QB Jordan Love in the first round, he doubled down with another head-scratcher in the second round when he took A.J. Dillon. Hello? Aaron Rodgers needed pass catchers, not a third running back. I really don't get this pick either. I'm not saying Dillon won't be good in the NFL. Only time will tell. However, it clearly was not a position of need for the Packers. Dillon is a power back who rarely breaks off huge runs.
Let's talk about wide receivers. Davante Adams is one of the best at his position. Outside of Adams, all receivers appeared lost on the field. None of them developed good chemistry with Rodgers. Marquez Valdes-Scantling was a huge disappointment last year. He showed promise as a rookie in 2018 with more than 500 receiving yards. Here's a jaw-dropping statistic. After week number 7, MVS did not record more than 19 receiving yards in any meeting. That's awful. One of the guys benefiting from Valdes-Scantling's poor play was Jake Comarau. He got more playing time than expected, but he still caught only 12 passes. He is limited as an athlete. He's not a long-term answer for the pack. Alan Lazard was also thrown into action more than expected. He finished second in receiving yards for Green Bay, but let's face the reality. The undrafted guy is more of a number 3 or number 4 wide receiver in this league. In other words, the number 2 role is wide open in Green Bay. The team hopes newly acquired Devin Funchess can step into that role. The former second-rounder had his best season of his career in 2017 with the Panthers by catching 63 balls for 840 yards and 8 TDs. He signed with the Colts last year, but he played just one game before breaking a collarbone. He will be 26 years old when the season begins, so he's an interesting prospect.
It's time to talk about the tight end position. Well, we are not done talking about 2019 busts. Jimmy Graham was one of them. He clearly looks washed. He received the lowest grades of his 10-year career, and deservedly so. The Packers released him, and he signed a few days later with the Bears. Mercedes Lewis received surprisingly good marks from PFF. If you look into the numbers, the good grade occurred mainly because of efficient run and pass blocking. He's not much of a receiver, and he will be 36 years old when the season begins. Robert Tonyan will also be in the mix, but the guy that has the best chance to break out as a receiver in 2020 only caught 3 passes last year, all in the playoffs. Jace Sternberger. Taken in the 3rd round of the 2019 draft, Sternberger was a threat at Texas A&M in college. He missed most of the regular season because of injuries, but the door is wide open with Graham's departure. Let's go over the offensive line position. The Packers had a pretty solid offensive line in 2019. All 5 starters managed to play at least 84% of the offensive snaps, and they all finished above average according to PFF ratings. The bad news, however, is that Brian Bulaga left for the Chargers. Despite turning over 30 years old, he still played at a pretty high level. The Packers decided to replace him by signing Rick Wagner, formerly of the Lions. Wagner's PFF grades from 2016 to 18 were as follows: 74, 75, and 71. And last year his play deteriorated a lot as he was tagged with a 59 grade. He finished as the number 61 tackle out of 81 guys. I like the fact that the team is returning 4 out of 5 guys, but replacing Bulaga with Wagner has to be viewed as a downgrade.
So overall, what is the 2020 outlook for the Packers offense? Well, they finished in the middle of the pack in terms of points scored per game last year. Barring major injuries, I expect similar production in 2020. First, the QB and the running back situations remain about the same. At wide receiver, adding Funchess is not a huge acquisition, but it won't hurt. the team clearly needs someone to step up opposite of Davante Adams. At tight end, losing Jimmy Graham means close to nothing since he was so ineffective. Sternberger might bring some nice contribution, but he's hardly a game breaker. Finally, the offensive line play will take a dip after losing Brian Bulaga. I don't believe Rick Wagner can do better than him. So all in all, I view the additions and the departures as a slight negative for Green Bay. But having so many starters returning for the second straight year is a good thing. So for these reasons, I expect similar output as in 2019.
Let's talk about the Packers 2020 defense, and I'm not going to talk about every position. Most of the starters are returning in 2020. That's the good news. The team lost their leader in tackles, Blake Martinez, as well as pass rusher Kyler Fackrell, and also cornerback Tramon Williams. The only acquisition worth of note is Christian Kirksey. Him not having played very much during the last 2 seasons brings some question marks. The Packers' defense struggled against the run last year, and honestly, there's no reason to believe that will change in 2020. Green Bay still finished 9th in points allowed, which was a very acceptable result. Unfortunately, a decrease in effectiveness is expected in 2020, and I predict this unit will end as a middle-of-the-pack defense, somewhere around 12 to 19 in points allowed. So, do you believe we should bet the Packers to win over or under 9 games this year? What's your opinion? Well, I ran an advanced statistical study to answer this question. I looked at the odds from betonline.ag, which I converted into win probabilities for the road and home team for each game. And then I wrote a program that simulated each game according to those probabilities. So I came up with a number of wins for each NFL team for 1 season. And then I proceeded to simulate 1 million years. And I simply counted the number of times the Packers won more or less than 9 games. By the way, I omitted the simulated years where Green Bay won exactly 9 games, because your bet would have tied anyway. Now here are the results. In 51.4% of the cases, the Packers won more than 9 games. Now the best line I found across 13 online sportsbooks on the over is plus 115 at BWin. Now that translates into a return on investment, a ROI, of plus 10.5%, which is great. Now what about the under? Obviously, it occurred in the remaining 48.6% of the cases. And this time, the highest odds I could find was at Heritage Sport. The odds were plus 100. So that amounts into a ROI of minus 2.8%. And for this reason, my final betting tip is to bet the over. Now notice that the break-even odds, that is those that generate a ROI of 0%, are minus 106. So I would argue that you should bet the over only if you get odds that are at least plus 110, which is the same as 2.10 in decimal format, by the way. This positive 10.5% ROI sounds awesome, right? Well, guess what? This is the 25th highest ROI I found across the league's 32 teams, which means there are 24 other teams whose ROI is even bigger than this. In other words, there are lots of bargains available. And that's why you should subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you don't miss out on those great bits. I'm Professor MJ. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.